down because the man has a very good point and it works in my backyard, but we're all connected. This is really hard for me to say, but for me to bring the best thing to this get-together, I have to be who I really am. And I have to present you with the what-if scenario. When I was 12 years old, I used to watch David Suzuki. He predicted the global warming. The scientists came out. They said, what if we don't change, things might happen. Now we are right into it, and it is going to get really rough, really fast. What if by 2010 the warming gets to the stage where you cannot manufacture snow? What if the glacier melts and it's mud and you cannot build the Olympics? What if we only have 15 years left and the earth is going to wipe us out?
And can you help us focus on your sticking point for housing solutions?
Yes.
Thank you.
What if what we have to do is use whatever time we have left, cut costs, the people on the top to think not to make so much money and help the people below, and somehow learn to come forward with the compassion required to solve the problem.
Great. Thank you.
Everybody took all their money out of the bank at the same time. That might get a little bit of political will in action. Just take all your money out of the bank at the same time. Okay. What I'd like to say is that figure that you said about $10 an hour, wrong. It should be $22.50 an hour, and I figured it out. If you go back to at least 1970, and you take the amount of money that this government has allowed a landlord to raise the rent, legally allowed to raise the rent, and you apply that same percentage to the minimum wage for each year, we should be making $22.50 an hour. The provincial government that allowed landlords the right to raise rent a percentage every year has frozen the minimum wage and not allowed the minimum wage earner to have the same increase in their own income. Therefore, we've got homelessness.
So perhaps indexing minimum wage to housing costs?
No, actually what I was going to suggest is that since we have been legally ripped off, we have a class action suit against the province for not raising our minimum wage. In fact, I feel I've already paid for a piece of land and I will take it. Come with me.
Thank you very much.
You own it too.
My name is Gordon Fraser and I come from the West End. The last 2.5 years, my volunteers have made over 100,000 sandwiches for people in the West End. Earlier this evening, you said that you were only approached twice by panhandlers. Each one of those represents 4 more that you didn't see in your walk. So there were probably at least 8. In the West End, we have 1,500 people who are homeless. Personally, I sell commercial insurance. The city of Vancouver doesn't buy insurance. That's why we as taxpayers have to pay for the damage done a year ago in Stanley Park. But just for those of you who don't know, Stanley Park doesn't have a postal code, but we still have about 90 people that live there on a year-round basis. In the city of Vancouver and in the greater regional area, we have no less than 7,000 homeless people today. So,
and what's your sticking point you want to raise?
I think my point is that, first of all, 2,000 homeless is like a Band-Aid on open-heart surgery. It's not the answer, it's the beginning. On Thursday evening of this week, we have people coming to Vancouver to St. Andrew Wesley United Church on Burrard and Nelson. And they're coming from Portland to show and explain how this Central City project in Portland has reduced homelessness by 70% within the last 2 years. If this can be done, a mere 6-hour drive south of here, then why can't something like this happen in Vancouver?
Great.
It might be worth your while to come to St. Andrew Wesley. It's 6:30. It's this coming Thursday evening. The church will be open at 6 o'clock, and there are seats for 1,500 people. I invite every one of you to come to find out how to solve the problem. This city can't do it by itself. None of us can. We have to work together.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'd just like to say a sticking point is about half the people in the street have a concurrent addiction and or mental illness, and what we haven't talked about is none of those folks are getting any service, or if they are, they're getting inadequate. the major barriers is accessible services for people with mental health and addiction issues, and that's what Thursday night is about.
Absolutely.
Hi, my name is Dan. I'm a carpenter by trade. I'm new to your city. I secured employment in your city. I went to your government. I could not even get a bus ticket to go to work. I live on the streets here for now 2 weeks, walked around every night, and I met the homeless people. If we talk about mental illness, I think that selfishness and arrogance should be made and mental illness in our country. And I think that the political will to do something to help the homeless, stop being so selfish. We're all equal. Let's work together. And never mind what's good on paper don't mean nothing, because it's only going to grow and it'll destroy every one of us. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
My name is Alan Herbert, and my sticking point is community activism, and I have been a community activist for something in excess of 30 years, and much of that has been involving housing, including creating the first HIV housing in Canada, which was McLaren House. We almost got the first hospice, facing NIMBYism and working with the Sun, BCTV, and CBC, but that's a long story I won't get into right now. The point is, I asked this question to a panel at Simon Fraser University a couple of weeks ago. In the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, everywhere you went in Vancouver, whatever neighborhood you went to, people were involved and they were participating. What has happened to that? It seems to have become so quiet. I'm thrilled that these people here tonight have turned out for this issue. We'll see what happens on Thursday. And what I'm hoping is that we will start a brand new Vancouver renaissance in housing through community activism. We built the city, and the public of this city is brilliant. It knows how to handle and address the matter. Thank you.
Housing is really a question for all Canadians. And if it is a question of escalating costs and values, I think we have to look at our own federal tax legislation when it comes to housing. And that is, if we eliminated the tax-free capital gains on housing, we would eliminate the great disparity between owners and renters and the generations who feel that they're financial wizards for the tax windfall and escalating markets. Today, our housing is a market mechanism, not a home, and everybody is forced to play that game. And this is why we're dealing with increasingly disparate situations in our cities and in the countryside, and pressures extending beyond, because the market forces us to build bigger, cheaper, and less efficient, rather than smaller, more durable, and more appropriate for our future. So the questions are bigger than what we have here in Vancouver, and things like SROs, managed housing, which treats homelessness and the people that need to be provided with housing as people that are lesser, that are ill, or have no tenants' rights, is only a stopgap. So it's a bigger question that all Canadians have to ask and find answers that make us more equal and less disparate.
Thank you.
And also act as a creative leader in looking for new attractive incentives in bringing affordable housing to Vancouver.
Great. How about this thing? I don't know if I can repeat the whole thing, but it involves the private sector working as a leader and taking more initiative.
And finding attractive incentives.
And finding incentives. Thanks. Maybe if you could stand up and shout out at this next thing.
All right. Hardly enough time. But one of our soundbite is that we need to start including the human costs, not just land, not just the concrete, not the soft cost or the developer's profit, but what it costs for keeping a person on the street and publicizing that. So it's not as though there's no cost that somebody's there. But if we give them a home, that we actually are saving money in the end. And governments like to save money. So keeping the human cost, not just talking about what it costs to build that concrete building.
Thank you. And this next table, right back here.
That's good. You kind of said what we were going to say, but maybe